Now, retirement can last for 30 years or more, depending on when you retire and how long you live. Your income in retirement is likely to come from several sources, including your state pension, any other pensions you've built up while working, and any savings and investments you have. What can be done with it, and how exactly does it benefit one? Let's find out from Michelle Nyandiko, who's from Enwealth Financial Services. A very good afternoon to you, Michelle.
Good afternoon.
All right. It's lovely to have you. We've had you guys here before, and this is the second time we're having you. And before we get into deeper matters, find out matters health services when it comes to your pension or your retirement, let's start off by you explaining how important your pension, your retirement is.
All right. Pension is very important because pension then forms your livelihood when you stop working. Today you're working and you have to work for the income you earn now and the income that you'll spend then. So the money you're spending now is therefore a seed to take care of you at the time that you are retired. And so it's so important that everybody should have a pension. And we're now also looking at what are some of the concerns retirees are facing so that we are able to address those now while you're working.
All right. All right. Now, just to give a slight report, according to the Kenyan perspective, which is one of the findings from the report indicates that only 30% of Kenyan retirees have a comprehensive medical cover. Now, other retirees use up to 25% of their scarce financial resources on the rising medical expenses, leaving barely enough for other basic needs. 20% is spent on school fees for their children and grandchildren, 20% on food, and about 15% on agribusiness venture. Of key interest is that retirees are also using most of their pension on building homes, which is evidence that pension has not worked out as expected. Why?
Oh yes, the biggest challenge for many Kenyans is first raising that deposit, then accessing mortgages where interest is very expensive for the mortgages. So you find, for example, most people earning within the average income levels in Kenya between 30 and 50,000 per month still don't have any kind of mortgage they can access. And I would even take that bracket a bit higher. Many Kenyans, still young Kenyans, millennials, cannot easily access housing. And then we're also seeing it extending. Even people retiring are using most of their lump sum to purchase a house at that time. So this is an issue that really needs to be addressed. It means it's cutting back the quality of life that a retiree would really enjoy if they have to buy a house at that time. And likely it has a huge effect on how much they'll be able to enjoy their retirement.
All right. Now, the report also found that one of the biggest concerns is lack of adequate medical insurance to cater for the increasing risk of poor health, chronic diseases, yeah? So how can fund members shock-proof themselves from retirement healthcare costs?
Yeah, it is a big concern. The biggest two concerns are medical care and reduced income, and both of which we can address. So on the medical, for example, it's good for people to be aware that the medical costs will only go increasing as you grow older. And likely at retirement, you're not enjoying any kind of medical cover from an employer. So that means it's a cost you bear. And the situation today is to enjoy the same kind of standard you've been living, then you have to pay a lot for medical cover. And so it becomes inaccessible for many retirees. So what young Kenyans can do is today, you are able, Enwealth, we allow you to save for your retirement, including your medical needs in retirement.
And how does that work?
What you do is you're able to identify what kind of medical cover you are enjoying right now.
Because, sorry, I just need to put it out there, because a normal Kenyan has the NHIF and the NSSF. These are two different things.
Those are two different things.
So how is this different? What is Enwealth offering that is different from these two?
From these two.
Yeah.
All right, NHIF gives you some level of cover. However, we need that cover to be comprehensive enough so that if you've been going to, for example, any hospital of your choice, you're able to continue in the same way, even in retirement, that you're able to sit comfortably and know I'll be covered comprehensively to enjoy the same standard of living I was. Okay, now without that, we will still continue in the culture of doing harambees for people when they face medical issues.
Which is quite a norm.
It's becoming, and it's worrying because it's a financial burden, and it's a financial burden within our social networks, but more so as we get an increasing aging population, then this issue has to be addressed comprehensively. So we need to have a policy whereby the senior citizens are fully covered, comprehensive, preferably by the state. However, if that does not happen, then Kenyans still have the opportunity to pre-fund their medical needs at retirement. So a working Kenyan today is able to save for retirement and save and buy a medical cover now. For example, I'm 30 years old. I am able to save for my medical needs in retirement by putting out just 1,500 shillings a month. Now this is invested, and this purchases for me the cover that will kick in when I'm 60 years old and cover me for life.
Describe invested.
All right. Now, what in the current policy, the Retirement Benefits Authority has allowed Kenyans to put aside money to fund their medical needs in retirement through their retirement benefit schemes. So that means then I'm able to put aside money for medical, which enjoys tax exemption, and which then grows through investment income, because our pension funds, as you know, are invested. So the same will happen to the pool set aside for medical. It will be invested. This then grows over time, over a period of time, and covers you for life.
Putting your money that you're saving for retirement into business.
Yes.
All right, that's fine. Now, what would you say the government or the other key industries that are in charge of employment are doing to maybe soothe or make this pension situation better?
I think the first thing is we need to create the awareness. People may not really, society changes over time, and the issues that the retiree is facing today may not be the issues that they faced. So as at this moment in time, we're finding that health is a real issue for retirees. So then in terms of policy, we need a sustainable way of ensuring that retirees afford adequate health care, quality services, and at a cost that is good for their pockets. And so that's why we look at the NHIF that provides social medical benefits.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's been seen that most of retirees are using the money to build retirement homes.
Yes.
Is this something that you would say is advised?
Okay. I don't think it's because it's advice. It's because at that moment when you retire, you really do need a home. Yeah. Whether it is a home in the village or a home within the city, but this is where most of retirees' income. Therefore, the net effect is that instead of enjoying the same lifestyle out of salary to pension, a huge chunk of this pension then goes towards that big token item of buying a house, right? If you had managed to buy a house in your working life, then you'd likely be able to enjoy the same standard of living, so that your pension can replace your salary and you enjoy the same standard. So what we're encouraging young people is take up that mortgage. Take up that mortgage now when you're working. And we encourage that those in policymakers can make these mortgages more accessible for young people. I know the government is planning to do a lot, 500,000 in housing. It is a needed move to enable the next generation to acquire homes.
So the only option is for young people to start maybe mortgaging houses very early.
Yeah, the earlier you
in case
do it,
you've
the
reached
better.
that stage of a retirement age and you do not have, what's your advice for those who've not started early?
Those who've not started, I would say this, that Saving and long-term investment starts with your very first income. It doesn't start when you're 40 that you start preparing for retirement. So it's very important, start saving for that retirement. You will need that money to maintain your lifestyle. You'll need that money to take care of your medical. And you'll also need to do it to reduce on your individual tax obligation. You need it as a fallback. In the society we have today, the young people, you are not assured of employment until age 60, unlike the previous generations.
It's not the same.
So in fact,
I mean, especially now, as young people, we're trying to curb that. We're trying to make sure that all these get out of the positions they're sitting in so that we can get employment. So there's actually no guarantee. Now, we've spoken about employment being missing in action. We've spoken about our health deteriorates as you get older. We've also spoken about the fact that housing is a big, it's very essential, and you should start, if you're going to mortgage, you should start mortgaging your house, or planning to purchase a house as early as young as possible. That way, when you have finally retired, you have your retirement home ready. But now there's another big deal, which is school fees.
Yes.
Most of the retirement money goes to school fees.
Yeah.
Now, people just starting families late in life. Why are we seeing this?
I don't think it has to do with starting families late in life. I think it has to do with generally the cost of education is also high, and you find when someone reaches age 50 to 60, which is typically where most Kenyans retire, at that time is where they have their kids in secondary school, in the university. So school fees is still a big burden, and it also calls for individual planning of finances. So if you're in your 40s, you have a child, then you could take a school fees savings to take care of that big token expense so that it's not a burden.
All right. So everything, what I'm getting is that everything has to do with Marty's savings.
Yes.
So now, how does Enwealth come in?
What we do is we tailor our solutions based on research and on research on what's happening to the Kenyans. So the first thing it calls for is on planning. People need to be aware that it's important to save. As much as it's not compulsory, it is important. And we would love to have a situation where it's compulsory for every employer to provide that savings. And when you do the savings, you should have a target. You should be saving towards a target. Retirement is one, medical is another, housing is another. Education is another big aspect. And we found some of these items are very important, as in as much as you are employed and when you're working, you also, in your planning, these are the items that Kenyans fall back on at retirement. So most retirees were engaged in, again, farming, going back for other employments, and then also putting up property for rentals. So we found in Kenya, generally across all ages, property is a very important asset for investing for their pension. And so we just want to encourage people then, if that is your goal, just make sure you have something that will take care of you. Don't leave out the pension.
All right. Yeah. All right. And the social security savings is something that is very, it's a significant source of retirement income, and many people might be doing this, but as you said, it's not many are aware as well. It needs a lot of visibility. Now, what other ways what other sources of income do people use to sustain themselves?
Okay. The biggest that showed up from our research is pensions, farming, and rental income. So that's what a lot of Kenyans are falling back on at retirement. And so what we are doing for employed people is, once we identify, so these are the key things, then in the retirement preparation, because we do run formal retirement preparation programs for organizations. In the retirement preparation, we take a practical perspective and take you to the farm learn how it's done. So when you actually retire and go out to farm, you have some information. There's the issue of investing. A lot of Kenyans rely on property to invest. So why not give people the information so that they can do it without falling into fraud, to learn how should you look at property, how should you evaluate, because these are the things people are going to do out there. But it's also important that we learn in our culture that besides these other activities, because hey, look at you and me, the millennial, we may have never farmed in our lives. So we should still then have a proper, adequate investment in terms of assets, such as your pension or another source of income that you know you will have at that time to fall back on.
All right. Now, in most African, now this is very interesting, in most African settings, and I'm sure everyone will agree with me, most African settings, social family networks play a very vital role when it comes to providing financial coping mechanism for retirees. Can families still be relied upon when it comes to source of well-being during retirement?
Yeah, when we looked at the survey results, interestingly, most of the respondents said they were not relying on their children.
Really?
So it's not a realistic plan today to be planning to depend on your kids at retirement. You need to actually put aside a saving. We recommend you put aside at least 10% of what your income is. And then that over the long term should be able to take care of you.
All right. Now, any last words as we wind this up?
Okay, my last words would be, I don't know if I can stress this enough because of our current culture. Plan your finances. If you're in your 20s, this is a good time to get into those assets like property and land. If you can get it, get a house. If you're in your 30s, build up your savings. Put up a school fees policy for those children so that those do not become a burden on your back. If you're in your 40s, make sure you've planned, take up a medical, post-retirement medical plan for you and your spouse. Make sure you are bumping up extra incomes into that pensions. And lastly, when you're in 50s, our research shows most retirees enjoy retirement. Most retirees enjoy active life in retirement. So if you're in your 50s, do plan and you'll be able to have a good retirement outcome.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. We do appreciate that. Michelle Nyandiko from Nyandiko, sorry, from Enwealth Financial, just giving us an insight on how important retirement is. Your savings plan and needs to be prompt, and she's also just brought us up to speed on the different concerns when it comes to pension funds. Thank you so much. All right.